Welcome to Midwest Mission. We're so glad that you're here, and we're grateful that you chose to sacrifice your time to come here and serve. While you're here, each task that you do has the potential of changing a life. Whether it's packing a blessing bag for those who are hungry during a disaster, or a student kit that's going to bring needed supplies to a child to foster a great learning environment. Each item is going to go to somebody that's desperate in need. We hope during your time here, you will have the opportunity to witness all that God has in store for you and to experience the joy that comes from serving. Midwest Mission was founded in 2000 in Pawnee, Illinois. Our founder, Jack Travelstead, saw a great need for disaster relief distribution center in the Midwest to supply humanitarian aid around the world. He wanted to bring people together to help meet these needs so that lives could be changed. Since then, thousands of volunteers have served, and over $85 million worth of aid has been distributed in 687 international shipments and over 5,200 stateside disbursements. But the need kept growing, and so was the number of people that wanted to be a part of the solution. So 23 years after we started, Midwest Mission opened Midwest Mission Iowa here in Jefferson. This location has seen hundreds of people, volunteers coming in, processing thousands of pounds worth of donated items, all so more people may have what they desperately need. Now you're going to hear from our Executive Director, Chantel Corey, to learn a little bit about Midwest Mission and why you are a big part of what happens here.
Midwest Mission exists to bring the hearts and hands of God's people together to transform resources into humanitarian relief. We specialize in showing God's love in a practical way, and that only happens when people like you come here to be God's hands and feet, to turn these resources into humanitarian aid that can go into places during times of disaster and in times of crisis. We specialize in 4 areas: disaster relief, health, education, and microbusiness. Midwest Mission sends hope and empowerment around the world and around the corner by sending tangible resources to make an intangible difference in people's lives. These resources do not happen unless you are here to refurbish supplies or build kits. Our staff do none of this work. It is all done by volunteers. The staff are here to make sure the day-to-day stuff happens and to equip you to do the work of the ministry. This is your ministry. Midwest Mission is your ministry. It's a ministry of the people, completely funded by people and by individuals, by no other source. So thank you for being here and being a part of this. Why do we do what we do? Midwest Mission serves to help people in their time of crisis around the world and around the corner by sending simple resources that can improve people's circumstances. We believe in giving people a hand up and not a hand out. And we know that people need health and education, 2 stable things in their life to get their foot on that first rung to get themselves out of poverty. And we want to be there to help support in those circumstances. So how does Midwest Mission work? First, we have partner nonprofit organizations that tell us what their needs are, whether that's a conference disaster relief coordinator who's is dealing with a flood or a hurricane and telling us the needs that are there at that current time, or that's a nonprofit organization in Haiti, Guatemala, Honduras, telling us what their needs are so we can add additional items that we do not currently have on a regular basis, or so we can modify what we are doing. We're constantly asking our partners for what their needs are. Midwest Mission is driven off the needs of others. Then once we find out those needs, we ask for donations. We ask people like you to bring in those in-kind supplies or to give financially so that we can go and purchase those in-kind supplies. Then we have you, the volunteer, who comes here and is called here and answers the call for such a time as this to come here and turn resources that we have been given into disaster relief and humanitarian aid. Then we work again with partner organizations to distribute these supplies around the world and around the corner. We do require our partner organizations to follow up and give us reports so that we know where every item is handed out. And that way we can steward your resources of time and gifts and your talents to the best of our ability, which is our absolute goal. And we believe we're not only called to steward the resources here as best we can, but also kingdom resources, which why we believe partnerships are so incredibly important. So each of us can do what we can do best, so we can all make a bigger impact for Christ in this world.
Now that you know who Midwest Mission is and why we do what we do and how we do it, there are just a few more things that you need to know to make sure that you have the best experience possible. First, while you are here with us, we want you to be as comfortable as you can, but we need your help. That's why we ask you to wear comfortable clothing and closed-toed shoes. Also, when you arrive, you're going to be given a name tag, and we like to be called by our names, and we know that you do too, and it's really important also in case of an emergency. We want you to leave Midwest Mission in the same condition, if not better, than when you came. So if you're given a task and it physically is giving you an issue, please tell one of our volunteer leaders or staff members. There are a lot of adjustments that we can make. We can get you a mat or raise the table or even put you at a different table. But don't wait until you're hurting. Ask us sooner than later. We specialize in sending out disaster relief, but we also need to be prepared in case a disaster happens here. So in case of a tornado or severe weather, please head to the storm shelter that's in the center of our building. Down the hallway from the restrooms, you're going to see a door marked as our severe weather shelter. Please remain there until the storm is over. In case of a fire or earthquake, please head out any of the exits that are on the south side of the building and proceed across the street to City Hall. We're going to gather there and remain there until everybody is accounted for so that we can make sure that everybody left the building safely. There's several fire extinguishers located throughout the building and near all of the exits should you need them. There's also an AED device and a first aid kit in the kit room near the copy machine should there be a medical emergency. In case of an active shooter, we ask that you first run if possible, then hide, and as a last resort, fight. And make sure you call 911. We want to do whatever we can to keep as most people safe as quickly as possible. Midwest Mission asks that while you're in our buildings and in our vehicles, you refrain from smoking and vaping. We also ask you to make sure that you're using the best manners when you're dealing with other volunteers and with our staff. We're all here to do the work of Jesus, so let's treat each person as if they were Jesus. Make sure we're also not using any sexual or sexually suggestive behavior or bullying. If you experience any of that or if you are uncomfortable in any way, please let one of our staff members know, and we're going to do the best that we can to rectify that situation. At Midwest Mission, we cover everything with prayer, and we ask that you do the same while you're here. We know from the testimonies of our recipients that they feel that love that you put in every item and the hope that it brings them when they receive a gift from their brothers and sisters in Christ. So while you're building a student kit, think about the students that are going to be receiving that at the start of their school year, or a father who's going to receive the blessing bag who's going to be able to feed his family that night. We're so glad that you're here with us, and we're thanking you in advance for the great Christian attitude, flexibility, and the awesome impact that you're going to make for Christ around the world and around the corner.